Okay. I'm going to, just to give you a heads up, I'm going to read mine off first.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was wondering.
We're going to flip it because we're doing something different. Doing 2 short unsolved cases.
It sounds like we've officially started now.
We're started. Okay. We've been started this whole time.
No, I know, but like sometimes there's a clear moment where we're like, we should probably start, and then we're awkward.
Trying to make it less awkward.
It worked, but
You're
I'm pointing it
us
out.
Back down into the mud.
Keep talking.
Okay. So I'm going to cover the Cleveland torso murders. And what are you covering?
I feel like I just swallowed really loudly into this, but I'm going to cover the shark arm case of, I think his name's Jim Smith. Where's his name?
Where is his name?
Jim Smith. He starts it off, but it's a shark arm case.
Okay. So the theme here is a little bit of dismemberment. Lots of people being dismembered. In my case, decapitated. Like real bad.
I don't know the full details of my case besides an arm being cut off with a knife.
Okay.
There could be more dismemberment.
Maybe.
We'll get to that.
Okay. Well, okay. So mine takes place Cleveland. There was like a series of murders in the 1930s that would end up littering a place called Kingsbury Run with a whole bunch of body parts through like the water, like a landfill, all this jazz. So Kingsbury Run was a small shanty town between East 90th Street and Kinsman Road, attached to the, is it Cuyahoga River? Cuyahoga?
Why do you think I would know?
I'm pretty sure it's Cuyahoga.
This is like you think we researched the same thing and you're asking if that's what I thought too. I didn't look anything up about yours. I'm just here for a story.
Okay. So we're going to start with the controversial...
What is the time period?
1930s.
Okay.
Yeah, so mine starts, it kicks off in 1934. Although...
That's close to mine.
I know, that's why I picked it.
I didn't know that. Yours could have been like last year for all I knew.
Jeez. Okay.
I'm going to shut up now and listen again.
So I'm going to read the list of 13 victims.
Wow. Is this water mine?
It is. But the thing about the order in which they were found was not the order in which they were killed, because some of them were severely decomposed, but they just followed like the same style. So they're just assuming that they're part of this like mad butcher of Kingsbury Run is what they call him. Okay, September 5th, 1934, Euclid Beach in Brenton Hall, Ohio, was when the Lady of the Lake was discovered by a man named Frank Legossel. Now, that's kind of controversial because it makes for a fun story. So Legossel was gathering wood down near this lake, and he noticed by one of these little like sewer drainage things, there was like a log just chilling. So he went over to investigate. Wasn't a log. It was actually a woman's torso.
Go figure.
With the head and the arms and everything below the knees removed.
Gross.
So
imagine finding that.
I know.
I'd probably shit my pants. No, I'd probably be like, look at that weird looking log.
At least you're right next to the water. You can wash up right away.
I guess.
No one would ever know. So it's kind of controversial because it took a year for another victim to turn up that fit this profile. And then they kind of made a connection like, hey, maybe this wasn't an isolated incident. Some people don't consider Lady of the Lake one of the victims, but I think it's a fun kickoff point. I like to subscribe to this theory. Okay? Okay. So it takes us into late 1935, September 23rd. There's a gathering for the National Eucharistic Congress in Cleveland when 2 boys were playing softball in a ravine in Kingsbury Run at the foot of, I included this because of the name, Jackass Hill.
Well, duh.
Found the bodies of 2 men that were both decapitated and castrated. That's fun. One was ID'd via his fingerprints as Edward Andrassy. He was 28 years old, petty criminal, and he had rope burns around his wrist. The other man was stocky, middle-aged, but never ID'd, but seemed to be killed prior to Andrassy by like 2 weeks. The interesting thing is that it seems like both decapitations were not carried out post-mortem, and that was the cause of death for both men. After these killings, someone by the name of Elliot Ness, he was a famed prohibition agent from Chicago. He actually led successful operations against Al Capone and other mobsters.
Wow.
He was transferred to Cleveland as the city's safety director in 1934. So he was super determined to clean up the city. So just keep him in the back of your mind for a minute. 4 months after the discovery of the 2 decapitated men, Florence Polillo, a 42-year-old barmaid and prostitute from Kingsbury Run, was found. This little treat was found by a dog.
Oh. Wouldn't like for my dog to find that.
Yeah. Dog was just barking at these bushel baskets, and some people finally investigated. They opened up the baskets that were covered by burlap bags, and just so happens to be there was female torso inside, 2 thighs, a right arm, and a hand. Fun. And the rest of her remains were actually found the following week on Orange Avenue, a couple blocks away in just some random vacant lot. Her cause of death was also decapitation. It says that it was severed between the 3rd and 4th cervical vertebrae in one stroke. So now they kind of figure that this guy knows a lot about human anatomy. And is also not a weak person. So they're led
imagine cutting someone's freaking head off.
I know. Especially in like one stroke. I don't know. She was ID'd via fingerprints, and she was the last victim to be successfully identified out of all 13. So victim 5 was discovered in June 1936 by 2 boys skipping school. This one's fun because they were just palling around going fishing, and they found a pair of pants that were balled up, and they were like, hey, I wonder if there's money in those pants.
Sure.
So they started poking around, and out popped a head.
Not what you're looking for.
Not exactly what you're looking for. Then investigators found a nude male body about 300 yards away from where those boys found the head rolled up in the pair of pants. Also castrated and decapitated. Now, this victim had many tattoos, including an original one with a dove and an inscription of names, Helen-Paul, written above it. So they were like, we're definitely going to figure out who this is. Nope.
Really?
No ID made.
So just real quick, my case involves something with like an arm with a tattoo, which helps identify the person. And I've been so prepared to be like, that's why I need to keep getting tattoos, family, because what if someone like cuts off my arm? And you'll be like, oh, that's Katie's.
Yeah. I mean, that is a plus.
But I guess it doesn't always work that way.
No. They even put a death mask on display for this guy at the Great Lakes Exposition, and they still couldn't get an ID. Actually, there's, I don't have this written down, but I think like 4 or 5 death masks on display for certain victims that weren't ID'd, and they're still...
I guess having tattoos doesn't help if like you don't have any like social relationships. Not that that might be the case, but I'm just thinking.
Yeah. No, actually, like you're onto something.
I think people would recognize my arm.
Probably.
Because I'm like, look at this, Mom. Just kidding. I never tell her. I wait for her to find them on her own.
Okay. Victim 6 was discovered mid-July 1936, found on the west side of Cleveland in an area that was very similar to Kingsbury Run. Again, the victim was decapitated and castrated, and the head was found 10 feet away from the body, wrapped up in a bundle of bloody clothing. This was the only one where there was a lot of blood found near the actual body in the scene, so they think that this one was actually killed on site instead of somewhere else. Victim 7 was found in September of 1936. I don't know the actual date. This one was discovered in a stagnant creek within Kingsbury Run. Again, decapitated and castrated. It's a weird theme. This guy just did not like genitals and heads for some reason. But
I have some thoughts. I don't know.
Again, nearby, a bloodstained shirt was found that was wrapped up in newspaper. And they actually sent divers into this creek, and they found the lower halves of the legs, but never found the head. So somewhere, this dude's head is floating around.
Gross.
Victim 8 was found on February 23rd, 1937. This was the upper part of a young female's torso found on Lake Erie's eastern shore. She seemed to be decapitated after death, and the rest of her torso came to shore 3 months later. Victim 9, found on June 6, 1937. The bones and skull found under Lorraine Carnegie Bridge, close to Kingsbury Run. The bones were deemed to be from an African-American woman dead for about 1 year. Someone stepped forward and said that they think that this was their mother, and her name was Rose Wallace, who disappeared about 10 months prior to being found. This was never officially confirmed, though. Victim 10, found July 6th, 1937. A man's lower torso is found floating in the Cuyahoga River. Later, a burlap sack containing his upper torso appeared. The man's torso was gutted and his heart was removed.
Gross.
So there's that. So now there's just like random legs and stuff floating around.
What they did with the heart?
I don't know.
You think they ate it?
Probably.
That's where my mind's going.
Silence of the Lambs speaking to you.
I guess.
Okay, victim 11, found April 1938. Again, a laborer, found something floating in the Cuyahoga River and thought it was a dead fish. I don't know why he investigated, but he did. And he realized it was part of a leg. A lung, a ball of intestines, and a thigh would later appear in that area in the coming weeks, contained in 2 burlap sacks. One of the sacks, however, sunk and was never found. They speculate that that one had the head inside. One had all of the other body parts. The other one likely had the head. Although I don't know how you could just not find it.
They probably weren't looking that hard.
I guess. Because
It's the 30s.
They did some diving in the other creek and found like a pair of legs. So I don't know why they couldn't do this. Whatever. Victims 12 and 13 were found at the same time. On August 16th, 1938, these are the last 2 found. They were found in a landfill at East 9th and Lakeside. It was a woman's torso wrapped in a man's blazer and then again in a bed quilt. Nearby, in a box, contained her arms, legs, and head. The box was then wrapped in butcher's paper. While investigating this scene, investigators found another body, which turned out to be a man. He was in a more advanced state of decomposition, and then his head was found inside of a can. I don't know what kind of a can. I just imagine like somehow it was shrunk down and like put into like a coffee can.
I mean, I kind of thought coffee can because that's like the biggest can I can think of. But I'm looking at your head and I'm trying to be like, would that fit in a coffee can? Probably not.
Maybe they made coffee cans differently then.
That's true.
Maybe people were buying like a 5-gallon bucket of coffee.
It's possible.
I don't know. Okay. So the interesting thing about the last 2 victims is this one seemed to almost be taunting that guy, Elliot Ness, that I told you about earlier.
Okay.
Because his office overlooked the landfill. That's a shitty view for your office.
It sounds great.
But they were basically hidden in plain sight right in front of this dude's face. So what does this guy do? 2 days later after finding these guys, he orders Kingsbury Run to be destroyed. Literally goes in, has everyone rounded up. The city's burned to the ground.
Sure. What else would you do?
So the town was like filled with like vagrant, transient people. Like they were just in and out. No one cared. So what do? He rounded them all up, put them in prison. That way he got them all in the books, all fingerprinted, and said it was for their own protection. It doesn't sound like it. And then he said, well, we have all these records now, so if any of you show up dead, we have record of you so we can identify you. I don't know. It just doesn't sound good. But in his defense, the killings did stop once that city was gone. Or shantytown. It wasn't a city.
Okay.
Now, just like I said, it seemed like he just had a theory that, the killer lived a transient lifestyle and only took out people that wouldn't be missed. He also had a guy, Dr. Samuel Gerber. He was the coroner in Cleveland that he consulted about the different murders and stuff like that. And he said that he had the killer had to be a doctor, a nurse, a medical student, or just a hunter, butcher, or animal vet, like someone that knew something about anatomy. During this time, like newspapers and stuff were just making outlandish claims saying that, this mad butcher kills for the sake of killing. Then they were doing headlines like, he kills to satisfy his bestial lust for blood, and, got to sell newspapers.
That's true.
It's tough in the 30s. Okay. So, the police sent out advertisements in 44 different languages for anyone to report any large quantities of blood. Because
44 different languages.
Yeah.
In America.
In America.
In the 30s.
In the 30s. I don't know what they were expecting.
I don't even think America would do that today.
Yeah. So they thought this guy had a workshop because they didn't find blood around except for one of the scenes. So they figured he was taking these people, chopping them up, sending them down the river, and disposing of the blood elsewhere.
Weird.
Nothing ever really came of this because they only had one suspect publicly, and that's 52-year-old Frank Dolezal. He was a Slavic immigrant bricklayer. And the only way that they really tied him to the case is that he just happened to frequent the same bar as two of the victims, which was Edward Andrassi and Florence Polillo, which were actually like victims 2 and 4, I believe, 2 and 3, 2 and 4. They investigated his apartment and they think they found blood. Later on, it was actually animal blood. They questioned him for 2 days and just beat him into confessing something.
That's what they do.
Because every time he tried saying, well, yeah, I did it. Here's how I did it. Here's where to go. It never led anywhere. Unfortunately, because of the way he was treated in custody, he never made it to trial because he killed himself in prison.
Wow.
And his autopsy revealed that he had 6 broken ribs, which were all freshly broken, so they had to be done while he was in custody. Now, Elliot Ness had another suspect that was never publicly mentioned. His name was Dr. Francis Sweeney.
I think it was him.
Probably. He was a Cleveland physician and a World War I veteran who performed field medicine, which in World War I included a lot of amputations.
Sure.
Now there's stories.
And his name.
Yeah.
Dr. Sweeney.
Dr. Sweeney. Around this time, a lot of vagrants around Cleveland that came from Kingsbury Run claimed that they ran into a guy that, quote, looked like a doctor. And what he would do is he would offer these homeless people like a good meal to come to his house.
Why?
I don't know. He would get them full up on food. Mm-hmm. This guy would disappear and get himself like a whiskey.
Ulterior motives.
Yeah. And then he would just get weird. And, some of these people would run away and they would like recount together like, hey, I almost got chopped up by this guy, I think. And it just like these rumors just started circulating. So Sweeney, he definitely was a drunk. His wife actually divorced him in 1934 because he was violent towards her and their children.
And did the murder start that year, or were they just starting to find bodies that year?
1934 was when they found the Lady of the Lake late that year. So Lady of the Lake was, I believe she was killed a couple months prior to that.
Maybe if it's this guy, he starts killing people. His wife thinks something weird's going on. Maybe she doesn't know. Maybe she's like, bye, divorce.
Yeah.
And then he's just triggered, and then he gets to be his weird, freaky self.
It was probably a good call. Because apparently he would start hallucinating under the effects of alcohol. I don't know what causes that.
Maybe alcohol was just way stronger back then.
But hallucinating and being violent can't be good.
They used to put cocaine in Coca-Cola.
They still do.
That's probably why I like it so much.
Okay. So, allegedly, because this isn't public information, I guess, Ness apprehended Sweeney, but it took him 2 days to sober up enough for him to cooperate.
Wow.
And 9 days after the final victim was found, or victims, Sweeney would commit himself to the Soldiers and Sailors Home in Sandusky, Ohio, where he was diagnosed with schizophrenia. Interesting.
All signs point to murder.
I know. In the 1950s, Ness would actually get a series of postcards that had taunting messages on that he always thought pointed back to Sweeney. Like he was just kind of being a douchebag about it. Like he got away with it. These postcards in 2003 were in a form of experiment. They tried to extract the DNA off the stamps, but they figured out that the process would actually cause irreparable damage. So they just didn't do it. Well, instead, they're just on display. So I don't know why they would do that. I feel like having a couple postcards saved is not worth not catching this guy.
That's fair.
I don't know, or at least knowing. But Ness got a mysterious letter, which I'm going to read real quick.
You're really pulling to me now.
This was in 1939. Elliot Ness received this letter. It says, Chief of Police, you can rest easy now, as I have come to sunny California for the winter. I feel bad operating on those people, but science must advance. I shall astound the medical profession, a man with only a DC, which I looked up, and the only thing I could find that seemed somewhat relevant was Doctor of Chiropractic. I don't know. Maybe DC meant something different back then, but that's all I can find now. What do their lives mean in comparison to hundreds of sick and disease-twisted bodies? Just laboratory guinea pigs found on any public street. No one missed them when I failed. My last case was successful. I know now the feeling of Pasteur, Thoreau, and other pioneers. Right now, I have a volunteer who will absolutely prove my theory. They will call me mad and a butcher, but the truth will be out. I have failed but once here. The body has not been found and never will be, but the head minus the features is buried on Century Boulevard between Western and Crenshaw. I feel it's my duty to dispose the bodies as I do. It is God's will not to let them suffer. X.
Debatable.
So I don't know if he means like it's my duty to dispose of the bodies as I do, like cutting their heads off and their genitals. I don't know if that has any biblical significance.
I mean, I clearly don't know, but usually whenever I hear things like it's God's duty that I have to do this, blah, 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 I'm like, you're crazy.
Yes. That's really the end of it. But I do have the fun fact that you can go to Cleveland and take a murder tour that takes you in the footsteps of the Mad Butcher of Kingsbury Run's footsteps.
I'd do it. Why not?
Yeah. And it ends, I believe.
That's a crazy thing. But Cleveland's not too far from here.
It's not. I think that would be fun. Besides, the end of it, you get to go to the exhibition where they have all of the death masks.
I don't know how I feel.
There's like 4 or 5 just chilling there. There's like their story. I think there's some other evidence related to each person.
I have to look into this.
I don't know. But that's mine.
So is it time for me?
Yeah.
Here's my first question. Did you find this one from that book too?
Yes.
Wow.
This book is full of goodies.
I want to read that when you're finished, but at the same time, I'm about to enter like a do not disturb huge book zone.
Yeah. It'll be here.
I can manage it all.
Sure, if you say so.
I can.
Okay.
Now it's just that I have to prove you wrong to be like, I'm going to read these 2 huge books and this little like 3-story trilogy thing that you also want me to read that I want to read too.
Uh-huh.
I want to get it all done.
I don't know. That's a lot.
I'm going to get it all done.
Okay. Whatever.
I'm not going to have a life for the next few months. But who needs one of those?
Exactly.
All right. So I want to talk about the shark arm case. Mine was okay. Maybe yours was fun for you. And I didn't do yours, so I really have no comparison. Mine was fun just because like yours is more depressing of a story.
I mean, I thought my story was really fun.
Okay, but mine was more fun.
Oh, whatever.
All right. So mine takes place in Sydney, Australia, in 1935. So it starts with, okay, we are at, it's going to sound really American, I'm sure. Coogee.
Okay.
Coogee. I don't know.
Coogee.
Coogee. I think the thing that I was looking up how to pronounce gave me the Australian accent, but I can't pull it off. But it's a little beach suburb in that area. So they have Coogee Aquarium Baths. So it's just like a little aquarium zoo place there. So in that area, they like at the beach, they find like this tiger shark. Mm-hmm. I read 2 different things. I'm gonna believe the first one I read that it's about 3.5 meters in size, which is pretty average for a tiger shark, which is pretty big. Mm-hmm. I mean, average for them, but that's big. It's a big, scary shark.
Right.
Yeah. And they're like, we got to get this bad boy in our aquarium, you know? And they do. I don't know how you catch a shark and put it in there.
You just wrestle it.
Yeah, why not? So, on April 25th, again, this is 1935, the shark is in the aquarium now. And, you know, a bunch of people come to see the shark, you know, come on, bring your kids, bring your spouses. Let's go look at this shark. The shark is like thrashing around. He's in distress, or she, I guess. I don't know. Anyways.
I don't know.
The shark, it's having a fit. It vomits up a human arm.
Oof.
How cool is that?
That's rough.
I'm sure it ruined everyone's day.
No, so someone was there and he enjoyed it.
Oh, yeah. There was some kind of like mild psychopath, you know, like, hey, I'm not a murderer, but that's freaking cool.
Yeah, that would have been me.
I'm going to be traumatized a bit, but that's cool. I don't really know how I would react. In my head, I would be like, that's cool. But I would get traumatized probably.
No.
Be like,
You'd be fine.
A human arm that was cut off. Now, these people, everyone probably is like, oh, the shark. It was a shark attack. The shark ate a person. Mm-hmm. But so they look at the arm. It's the left like forearm and the hand of a man who had a distinctive tattoo. I think I forgot to put it in my notes, or I might find it later. But the tattoo was just like a little like boxing man.
Okay.
But I mean, again, my story it involves like that helps to identify who the arm belongs to.
Yeah, it seems pretty unique.
And it's the 30s. I'm sure like tattoos aren't hugely popular. Yeah, unless you're probably like some kind of like sailors or.
Yeah, right.
This guy who it belongs to, he was formerly a boxer, hence getting a boxing man tattooed on his arm.
It makes sense.
And that seems like a career field where people would probably get tattoos.
Yeah.
Not your average Joe, though, you know?
Right.
Sorry, I needed some Starbucks. Okay. So they look into, like, they're like, we got to check out this shark. Turns out the shark had eaten a smaller shark. And the smaller shark was the shark that ate the arm.
It's like Russian nesting dolls of body parts. This is great.
Yeah. So I don't really know anything about the smaller shark.
Okay.
But they determined
was it another
that
tiger shark?
I don't know. I don't know anything about it. I just said that. Pay attention.
Woof.
Okay. So initially, again, they just assumed like, oh, okay, well then the little shark must have like consumed a person. Mm-hmm. But what do? Well, they're looking at the arm and they're like, no, that like the way it was like cut off with a knife. They could tell.
Okay.
So they're like, the shark didn't eat the person. It just ate the arm. It's like, oh, yum, a snack. So they're like, we have to investigate this because this could be a potential murder case. Mm-hmm. So they fingerprint the hand from the severed arm. They figure out it belongs to James Smith. So I have a little bit of background about him. So he's, like I said, he was a former boxer. He was also a small-time criminal. He's originally from England. He was born in 1890. I don't know at what point he moves to Australia, but he gets to Australia at some point. He had been reported missing since April 7th. Again, the shark vomited his arm up on the 25th. I think that's what I said. Yeah. So he had been missing for a while. He was married. So to confirm, when they fingerprinted him, they had his wife and his brother just like verify. And they're like, yep, that's his tattoo. That's his arm.
I got you.
Imagine looking at like your husband or your brother's severed arm. How freaking weird is that?
That was probably in the water for a while and then was eaten by a shark. I'm surprised they were able to fingerprint it. You would think like
especially in the 30s,
stomach acid
they
and
didn't
stuff.
have any technology then.
Yeah.
But I guess they did.
I mean, I guess they had something.
Yeah.
But...
Well, so they figured it out. So it turns out this guy, everyone called him Jim. I like calling him Jim. It's a good name, Big Jim. So he was like an informant for the police because, you know, small-time criminal. I'm sure they offered him a deal at some point for something he did to like be like, all right, rat other people out.
Yeah.
Stay out of jail.
Right.
Sure, why not?
Some people don't have a choice.
Yeah, well, and maybe that was the case. I don't really know. Didn't look much further into that.
Okay.
But he was known to live a high-risk lifestyle. So, again, they assume, he just died because maybe he was doing something risky and he got eaten by a shark. But no. His arm was cut off with a knife. They were able to determine it was cut off after he had already been, after he was dead.
Okay. Well, that's good, at least.
Yeah, for him.
Yeah.
And then they could tell that his arm was cut off so poorly it wasn't anyone with surgical experience. So they're like, this is probably like a murder investigation. So we're going to look into this more.
Uh-huh.
So like, we got to check out the shark. So they kill the shark.
Okay.
Like, this is probably, I forget, I don't have the day here, but I think it was like shortly after this all happened. They like immediately like, all right, we're going to kill the shark. We're going to gut it. We're going to see what else is in that bad boy.
That's so weird.
Nothing really. That's all. They were only able to determine it ate a smaller shark, which ate just the arm. They found nothing else. They probably didn't need to kill this poor shark.
Yeah, you would think like if something else was in there, he probably would have like coughed that up too.
Right.
I don't know.
So the shark is now dead too. Not
Oof.
that has to do with the murder. I was just like, that poor shark. It didn't know any better. It's just a circle of life that he ate the smaller shark, and it was a circle of life that the smaller shark ate the arm.
Yeah.
They were like, wow, someone throwed treats in the ocean for us. Okay. So during the investigation, police are directed to a businessman. He has such a name. Reginald William Lloyd Holmes.
Wow. Mm-hmm. That screams fancy.
Yeah. So he, I don't know. I can't do math. He was born in 1892, so he's however old.
Okay, sure.
He's 37.
Do the math yourself.
No, I did the math wrong. I added 35 plus 2. I should have added 35 plus 8. He's like 43-ish.
Ish.
They called him a fraudster and a smuggler, and I like that, fraudster.
Okay.
What a term.
Yeah.
So his family was known for running a successful boat building business. It was just a front for their smuggling operation.
Naturally.
Yeah. So he had been employing Jim Smith on multiple occasions. They would run like insurance scams and stuff like that. I guess one example that I could come across was in 1934. They sunk just a small like cruiser. I assume that's a kind of boat or something. It was called the Pathfinder. It was overinsured, so they were going to get a lot of money for it sinking and making it look like an accident. So that's how they bonded, got to know each other, breaking the law, insurance scams.
Sounds like how I bond with people.
Sure. Okay. More coffee. Hold on. So then I had to look this up. I read they started a racket with another guy, Patrick Francis Brady. I was like, what is racket? Like,
started a racket?
Yeah.
Isn't that just like a slang term for like a scam?
Yeah, pretty much. But I have full definition from Google.
Lay it on me.
An organized criminal act or activity in which the criminal act or activity is some form of substantial business or a way to earn illegal money, either regularly or briefly, but repeatedly.
I feel
So they're just doing organized crime stuff together,
okay.
Yeah.
Like BFFs do.
Yeah. That all backstab each other, but sure. So this Patrick fellow, he was formerly a serviceman. I don't know. Is that like an army terminology? That's what I assumed.
I think so.
He was also a convicted forger.
Oh, great. Okay.
They all have to have something in common.
Everyone has skills.
Yeah. So he was caught for forging checks. I don't know. He forged them against bank accounts, so I don't know if it was like his own accounts or something, and him and Smith would like go and cash them. Because I know I've never done it, but I just know people who.
Are you sure?
No. Yes. But like you can. No, I'm going to shut up now. I don't know what I'm talking about. So anyways, so we have these three guys, Jim Smith, dead, arm cut off.
Great.
Threw up by a shark.
Who else has that story?
There might be a few more out there.
Okay.
And then there's Reginald and all of his other names, but his last name's Holmes. We'll just stick with that because that's what I type the rest of the time. Holmes. The boat front for smuggling. And then Brady, who's the forger,
Okay.
Those are our three main characters here.
All right.
Okay. So Smith, back to him. He was last seen drinking and playing cards with Brady at this hotel in Sydney, Australia. I don't know. The Coogee place must just be the little suburb where the aquarium is.
Okay.
But in that area, on April 7th, like I said earlier, he told his wife he was going out fishing. He was lying. I mean, maybe they went fishing. I don't think so. I think he was going out to do crimes, but they're like, well, we got to get drinks and play some cards, pass some time.
Okay.
Brady had been renting a small cottage. I just said the street that it was on, which it seems like a fun word I'm going to mispronounce. Toowoomba Street.
Okay.
I'm sure it's not pronounced right. But I wanted to give it a try because it looks like a fun word. So Brady has a small cottage he's renting. He's playing cards with Smith. Smith goes missing.
Dun, dun, dun.
Police believe, but they don't know. But they think he was murdered at the cottage. So. They kind of think maybe it's Brady. We don't know yet. They also think maybe it's Holmes. It's possible. They're all in a little clique together.
Right.
So they can't find Smith's body parts. They're like, they must be in the ocean somewhere, since that's where the shark got the arm. So they were using the Navy and the Air Force to help look for it, but they can never find the rest of the body.
Oh.
So that created problems when... Okay, I'll jump ahead. Brady ends up going to trial for murder.
Okay.
Because I'm getting into Holmes.
Okay.
But...
I'm on the edge of my seat.
But since they can't find the rest of the body, that's going to create problems down the road.
I can see that.
Can they confirm murder? Maybe he's still alive somewhere without that arm. So, now it's May 16th. Brady's arrested and charged with murder of Smith. So, he took a taxi somewhere, and the taxi driver testified, like, I was driving him from here to here on the day that Smith goes missing. The driver claims he was disheveled, he had hands in his pocket, and he wouldn't take it out. Maybe he's hiding something, and he was frightened.
Interesting.
I'm not sure how much that helped them with anything. Probably none at all.
Yeah.
So they talked to Holmes before this trial, He denies being associated with Brady at first. He's like, no, I don't know that guy. Who's that guy? I got nothing to do with him. And they're like, well, we know that's a lie. So on May 20th, they go to check on Holmes, probably question him about stuff. He was also going to be a witness in the trial because he gave up. He's like, okay, no, I know him. He was trying to murder Jim Smith. But, no, wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. But on the 20th, he tries to commit suicide, is what they believe.
Holmes?
Yeah,
okay.
Holmes. He shoots himself in the head. But the bullet flattened against the bone on his forehead, so it only stunned him. Like, he was fine. Like, I think he passed out. It said, like, because he's on a boat, so, like, I think he, like, knocked himself into the water, which, like, shocked him. And then he gets back in his boat and he leads the police boats on a chase around the Sydney Harbor for hours until they catch him. And they're like, you got to go to the hospital, man. You shot yourself in the head.
That's ridiculous.
Right? That's my favorite part of the story. Poor Holmes. But then Holmes was like, no, I was attacked on my boat. People are trying to kill me. And the police are like, we don't believe you. You just tried to kill yourself and then you led us on a boat chase. And he's like, all right, you got me there.
What a guy.
So then he's like, okay, I'll cooperate with you, police people. He's like, it was Brady.
Just like that?
I don't know if it was just like that. That's what I imagine it was like, though.
Okay.
So he's like, yeah, Brady dismembered the body. He put it all in this trunk and he threw the trunk in Gunnamatta Bay, if I'm pronouncing that right.
No idea.
I don't know either. It's whatever bay's nearest in Australia. This is in June now, by the way. So he's like, Brady came to my house. He was like, look at the severed arm. And then he's like, Holmes, I'm going to kill you if you don't give me $500. And then I wrote Australia currency ? Because there was a symbol in the article, but I couldn't figure out what it's called.
I don't know what it is either.
I think I even Googled like Australian currency and I just got more confused, so I gave up.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't try too hard.
Well, at least you're honest about it.
Yep. So Holmes, he's like freaking out. So he still has Smith's arm, apparently.
He's just walking around with it?
He takes it to whatever coastal suburb and he just throws it in. I don't know.
Like a skipping rock?
I'm not sure what all I'm saying is factual either. This is an old story. I'm sure it's just been a bit exaggerated over the years. There's probably a lot of fluff
in there, but it's fine.
But I like the version of the story I read. I mean, I read two different accounts to just try and fact check, and they were pretty similar.
Uh-huh.
But, you know,
that's fine.
I'm sure some of these parts got a bit exaggerated over the years, but I like it. So, yeah, throws the arm in. I'm doing this as if people can see me. It's fine. On June 11th, Holmes takes out the $500 and he just says to his wife, I got to go meet someone. That's all he read. I don't know.
That's all he needed to do back then.
The next day, they found him dead in his car. He was shot 3 times in the chest at close range. I later read he was also shot in the head, but I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't matter. He's dead.
Yeah.
The crime scene was made to look like he committed suicide, and like maybe that could be believable since he has tried that already.
Okay.
But it said like forensic police investigated and said it's clearly a murder.
Yeah,
so,
you said 3 times, right?
Right.
How are you going to shoot yourself 3 times?
Like, real quick.
That takes some like fortitude.
Yeah.
Also you
if
can't.
You're gonna I don't know. I'm talking as if I know, and that's probably wrong. But you would think like if a man in the 30s is going to commit suicide, he's probably going to try and shoot himself in the head again. But now he's shot.
That you have to say again is just hilarious.
The bullet flattened out against his forehead. It did say what kind of gun it was, but we've realized that I really don't know what I'm talking about when I'm like reading the names of guns.
I don't either.
I assumed though it was probably like a really dinky pistol. He probably had it like, you know.
You don't talk about a man's pistol like that.
It's too late. So, they believe it was Brady again.
Poor
because
Brady.
At this point, they're like, yeah, we're taking Brady to trial based on what Holmes has told us. Brady seems suspicious. And we're going to use Holmes as the witness to be like, yeah, he showed up and was like, body parts are in a trunk. I threw it in the bay. Here's his arm. Look at this.
They're just standing in court, just like wiggling it around.
Right. So they're like, And I guess the trial was supposed to be like, I think the next day or something like that. It's coming up. And then Holmes turns up dead. They're like, it was Brady, for sure. We got him. He's killed 2 now. So they have a coroner look into Smith's death and Holmes, I believe. And Holmes, before, like, they're like, you're going to be a witness. People were like, maybe we should give him some protection. They're like, nah, he doesn't need police protection. And then he dies. Where am I at? Where am I at? So Brady gets a lawyer. His name is Clive. And Clive is like, there's not enough substantial evidence for you to find this man guilty. We don't have the body of Smith. We have an arm.
That's a problem.
He could be alive.
Right.
So guess what?
What?
Brady was found not guilty.
Wow.
There's not enough evidence. Clive he really helped. I don't even know if they did a trial for Holmes. If they did, I didn't read into that. So this case is listed as being unsolved. They don't know for sure what happened to Jim Smith. Clearly it was probably Brady.
Yeah, probably.
And the Bay probably just floated that trunk off where no one could find it. The Navy and the Air Force, they just didn't do a good job. They didn't care. It's the 30s. How do you find body parts in a bay?
I think they had the technology, but maybe the motivation was lacking.
Maybe. Also, they're all some form of criminal. So how much did they care back then, you know?
Yeah, right?
Because I think that was a legitimate thing that like, oh, well.
Probably.
It's criminals killing criminals, you know?
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's like people just shrug their shoulders. Like,
Yeah.
could be worse.
So there's a theory that Brady killed Smith on orders of some gang figure, Edward Frederick Wayman. Wayman? I don't know. Wayman sounds better than Wayman, but I don't know. So Smith, let me make sure I'm reading this right because I didn't use names for some reason in this sentence. Smith was arrested, I think, he tried to defraud a bank with a forged check in 34 and then rob the bank. No. That was Edward Frederick. My information makes sense now.
Okay.
So Edward, he's trying to rob and forge a check, rob a bank, blah, blah, blah. And at this point, Smith is an informant. And they think that Smith like rats him out to the cops and sends the cops after him.
Oh.
And so this like Edward Frederick Wayman guy, he's like, we got to take him out, that son of a bitch.
I don't blame him.
Yeah. So he's like, Brady, you're my best man. Get on this case. So the police tried to charge him again, found not guilty. He was released.
This guy is slippery.
This is where it gets good. And I don't know if this is factual. Literally, so they're like, you're not guilty, so you can leave. They escort him through like a back exit of the courthouse so he doesn't, I assume maybe there's like the media or whatever in the 30s there being like, we got to get this in like black and white photographs in the newspaper and blah, blah, blah. So they help him like quietly leave. So he leaves. He walks 60 yards from the courthouse and gets arrested again for forging a check the same day.
What?
But Brady, he went on. He lived a full life. He died on April 18th in 1965 at the age of 76.
Wow.
I don't know what he died from. Probably just old man problems, you know? Never got charged with murder.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So that's basically the story. I just have a couple little things that I guess this was like a legacy in Australia's legal history. It's like a case they like to be like telling students about and whatnot. Professor Alex Castle wrote a book in 1995 about this. What am I don't know. I think his book, my sentence doesn't make sense anymore to me, but I think he was saying that Holmes was also pretty responsible and involved in the death of Jim Smith with Brady. And that's probably why he tried to commit suicide.
Yeah, you'd think he'd have to be guilty of something to try and do that.
Right.
Yeah.
You probably wouldn't do that over someone confessing to the murder to you. You would think if it's really tearing you up, you'd just take them to police or something. I don't know. It was the 30s. Who understands people?
You just really have it out for the 30s right now.
It's just old times in general. There's an episode of CSI Miami from 2003 that is something similar. I assume like shark coughs up arm, but it turns out someone was murdered. I have not watched that.
I've never seen CSI
I think
before.
I've seen like clips from maybe just briefly watching it on TV back in the day, but you know, it's 2020. I use Netflix and Hulu. Who has cable?
Whatever. Jesus.
Old people, mom and dad. But I thought that was a fun fact. I'm sure it's inspired other things. YouTube's BuzzFeed Unsolved series. It's featured in an episode of that.
Oh, BuzzFeed.
Yep.
Wow.
And there are 4 different books about it. Again, the one by that professor. Then there's a book called The Shark Arm Case. There's a book called A Time to Remember. The professor's book is called The Shark Arm Murders. And then the other book is called Why Type Not a word, but it's called shark arm. Fixed it.
Interesting.
I don't.
Better late
I
than never.
ignore those red squiggles.
I don't know how you do that.
Well, half the time you like type a name and it's like, that's not a word. And then you just start ignoring it.
No, you just right click it and be like, hey, add this to dictionary.
No, I've never once done that.
Why?
I like the
It
red
makes your
squiggle.
life so much easier.
I don't care.
Jesus.
So that's all I really got. It was a fun story. I'm not sure all of it is factual, but I don't care.
Yeah.
Maybe it all is, and that's even better if it is.
I think, I think there's a good amount of like fluff information or stuff that's been like, exaggerated in both of our cases. But
Probably.
I mean, they're both fun. I think yours was overall more fun than mine. Although I just took great pleasure in the amount of people that were just systematically decapitated and castrated in my
Weird.
case.
You gave me the right one for me, I think.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely, after I read it, I was like, this is how we're going to split this up.
It worked for me.
This
I
is
didn't
right
even
up your
question
alley.
it.
Yeah. So you don't have anything else?
That's all I got.
Okay. Well, again, I'm not going to do the social media thing, but thanks for listening. If you liked the episode, leave a review wherever you're listening or follow us or something like that. But that's all I got.
I got nothing.
Adios.
Ciao.
Ciao again, huh?
I couldn't come up with anything.
Put you on the spot.
I don't care.